Tremaroli with us. We're here to announce charges in a child exploitation case and to explain how the case arises from the FBI's ongoing outreach efforts in our local schools. Devine Ravine, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, spelled Devineravine, is a 20-year-old man from Riverside, California. Last week, he was charged by federal criminal complaint with sexual exploitation of a child. The complaint contains only allegations, and the defendant is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty. The complaint alleges that Ravine, using an alias and an online dating application, began communicating with a Rensselaer County resident whose profile indicated truthfully that she was a minor. Beginning late last month, Ravine started sending messages to the child. His messages quickly became sexual in nature. Ravine sent pictures of himself engaged in sexually explicit conduct and asked and persuaded the girl to take and send to him images and videos of herself engaged in sexually explicit conduct. The child complied with some of these requests, ultimately sending him a video of her engaged in sexually explicit conduct. How was the defendant caught, and so quickly? It's part of what I like to call Operation It's Not Your Fault. FBI agents visit schools all over the Northern District of New York to educate students about internet safety and sex extortion. Our hope is to help students avoid these terrible situations and also to encourage them to come forward if they believe they are victims of a crime. Students may be embarrassed, ashamed, feeling that they are at fault, afraid to tell their parents, and one of our messages is, no, it's not your fault. And you should tell us if there are predators who have contacted you. In early April, after one of these events at a Rensselaer County school, a student came forward to the FBI agent and reported that something had happened to her. The FBI agent immediately started investigating what she told, and the student and her parents were completely cooperative. Her identity obviously remains anonymous. Agents worked so quickly that by that evening, Ravine was in custody on state charges in California. Federal charges in the Northern District of New York followed on April 23rd. This case is at its early stages, but it's the result of this office's commitment to investigating child exploitation crimes. For that, I'd like to thank our first Assistant U.S. Attorney, Dan Hanlon. I would also like to thank our Criminal Chief, Lisa Fletcher, and the 8 USAs prosecuting this case, Michaela Espinoza and Rick Bellis. I'd also like to thank the United States Attorney in Los Angeles, Bilal Saleh, whose prosecutors are handling the initial proceeding for us, and also the District Attorney from that local county, who's assisted as well. With that, I'd like to hand over to SAC Tremaroli to discuss more about the FBI's outreach efforts in our local schools. All right.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you, United States Attorney Sarcone, and thank you to your entire team who stepped up to match the passion and urgency this investigation demanded and deserved. There are a few things I want to highlight about this case, but first and foremost, I want to commend the student for having the courage to come forward and report what she was going through. In a room packed with her peers, she heard the message, recognized what was happening, and spoke up for herself. Because of her bravery, the abuse stopped immediately. It is my belief she also stopped countless other innocent minors from falling victim to Ravine's despicable actions. I also want to thank my team for their swift action in this case. Within 8 hours of speaking with the student, Ravine, who went by the fake name Derek Johnson, was in custody and arrested in California. We are awaiting his arrival here in the Northern District of New York. We couldn't have done it without the help of our FBI investigators in Los Angeles, specifically the Riverside Resident Agency, who immediately sprung to action and worked with our task force partners to locate Ravine and take him off the street. This case truly exemplifies the strength and reach of the FBI. It should also put predators on notice. It doesn't matter where you're committing these heinous crimes. We will use every resource we have to find you, arrest you, and ensure you can never hurt another child again. I also want to stress how vital our victim services are in cases like this. Our victim specialist has been involved since the inception of this case, ensuring our brave student has everything she needs, not just to assist us in a successful prosecution in this case, but more importantly, to put this nightmare behind her. This investigation illustrates perfectly why it's so important to be talking to our kids about the dangerous way these predators are exploiting them. We understand these are difficult conversations to have with children, but they need to know this type of contact is not just inappropriate, it's illegal, and we're here to put a stop to it. And that message isn't just for parents and caregivers. In many instances, kids are too nervous to talk to their parents for fear of being in trouble. Sometimes the trusted adult is a school resource officer, a teacher, or even a coach. That's why my team is committed to do these community presentations to arm adults with the information needed to spring to action when a child reports something like this. And to have a similar but softer conversation with the students themselves to help them realize the potential dangers in communicating online with people they don't know. To aid in these conversations, we have so many resources posted on our website, but we also work closely with the National Center for Exploited Missing Children. Their Take It Down program is an incredible tool to utilize if a child has sent a picture or a video and there's fear it made it to the internet. We also work with several child advocacy centers that assist us with safe places for interviews, and they are truly an invaluable resource for us as we navigate the victimization of a child. The bottom line is, this is a scary topic, but we're here to help. And I hope this arrest sends a clear message to the communities we serve. We have the tools and resources to remove predators from our communities, but those same tools and resources can also be used to educate the communities as well. I encourage any school or community leader to get in touch with our office. We have a strong relationship with the school resource officers, so that's a great way to reach out. Or you can contact my office. Together, we can protect our most vulnerable and stop these dangerous predators. That concludes our prepared remarks. We will open it up for some questions. However, before we do, I want to note that we have been very deliberate in not mentioning the school here today, and that's out of respect for the privacy of the victim. We appreciate your cooperation in not trying to seek that out. So we'll go around for questions. Please just tell us who you're directing the question towards.
Hi, and this question is for you. I'm Karina with News 10. I'm just wondering, were other victims identified during this process with this one suspect?
The investigation is early. We have information that there are additional victims. The investigation will play out. The arrest isn't the end of the investigation. This is really the beginning and the follow-on from this investigation.
Hey, Jimmy from Public Radio. Is this problem, we see a lot of these kinds of arrests from your office and this kind of fact pattern nationally. Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Are you, through these kinds of community presentations, starting to change the social sensibility, or maybe people are having more pause and there's more awareness? I'm just kind of curious where you are in the arc of this problem.
I thank you for the question. The way I view it, this is a significant problem affecting all the communities we serve all across the nation. What's important about this case is to show you there are victims out there that may not report it. And so what we need is our younger generation to have the confidence to tell somebody they trust, an adult or law enforcement, So we can utilize that information and ensure these predators get removed from the streets and cannot victimize any other child.
But is it getting better? Are you seeing more cases, less fewer cases? What's the kind of the 5-year trend, the 1-year trend?
It is in my opinion that we have a lot of predators out there. We put a lot of resources to work with the schools, to work with our task force partners to stop this threat. So to answer your question, there's a lot of work out there. We need more people to come forward and report these incidents.
As far as the conversations you guys are having with kids, going to the schools, making that, effort to engage with the community, how, what is the advice to parents, to teachers, to educators, anyone who has, children in their presence? How should people talk to these children? Take it like an 8-year-old versus, who might not be online as much as a teenager, how do you address that conversation with kids so young? When should you start having those conversations?
My message to parents is get involved with your children, talk to them about the dangers of engaging with somebody online that they don't know. Have that confidence that when people reach out, that they can talk, those kids can talk to their parents. The biggest thing that we have learned with this is sometimes children feel like they've done something wrong, and we want them to know you didn't do anything wrong. You are a child. The predators did something wrong. We need you to come forward so we can stop other victims from doing this type of similar acts.
Are you able to disclose what platforms?
Excuse me, could you just say your name and who you're
Emma
with?
Quinn with WRGB. Are you able to disclose what platform that these conversations were on?
It was a dating application that the two were connected, and I want to be very clear. It wasn't the dating application that provided the nefarious intent of the predator in this case. It was just the manner and means in which connected the two. Shortly after the connection through this application, they both went to their cellular phones to communicate.
Do you have this profile, are you able to share the profile of that individual, the one that was arrested? Any mugshot or anything of him?
We have a criminal complaint filed, which will be available for all of you, that provides in detail those conversations, which we'll provide to each and every one of you.
Kumi Tucker from Channel 13. So just to clarify, this was an FBI outreach in a school that prompted the girl to come forward at that event.
Correct. This is significant. The FBI puts a lot of effort in engaging with schools and doing presentations. Since the U.S. Attorney's been here, this is the first one preceding the school presentation. We were there talking about the FBI, talking about sextortion and what it is and what it looks like. And an individual who was listening to our message at the school came forward and spoke with the FBI agents that were there to talk about what happened to her. It was that message which resonated to her to speak with law enforcement, which caused law enforcement within 8 hours from New York to California, arrest and take this predator off the street. This is significant.
What do you believe that, if anything, he was doing with that video?
I'm sorry.
Do you believe that he was trying to get that video for any other purpose, pornography, or?
It's hard to say as the investigation is in infancy stages with this. It's my understanding the predator did not cooperate with law enforcement. So a lot of those facts will come out through the series of investigation.
Patrick Times Union, when do you anticipate Mr. Ravine being brought back to the Northern District?
That's a process question. United States Attorney, you want to speak on that?
Sure. I don't anticipate him getting back here anytime soon because it's up to the U.S. Marshal Service to bring him back, and it's on their timeline, their budget. But in the meantime, we're hoping that he will be remanded and incarcerated pending his removal. There is an application that's going to be made to a magistrate judge in California, and the magistrate judge could order bond to be released, which if happens, we will immediately appeal to a judge here in the Northern District. You have to realize something. The longer someone like this is out, that's more victims. That's not gonna stop just because he got caught. So we do not want him out on the street until such time as he's either exonerated after a trial by jury, or he's, comes out of prison after being convicted or pleading guilty. Any other questions?
Well, actually, what are some of the charges we faced with, how long is he looking at in prison?
I think he could be looking at 15 years. It's a first-time offense. I don't know if there's credits for that. I would be pushing for the max.
I guess this could be to either of you gentlemen or both of you gentlemen. How often are these cases, and I guess, talk about the instant case, but generally, how often are these kind of lone wolf operations? One person doing this, one person trying fishing for victims, as opposed to something that's part of a more organized network, be it for perhaps trafficking purposes or perhaps for extortion purposes? And can you speak to the, again, how that tailors your approach to trying to crack down on these crimes?
Well, I think this would be more for Craig to answer. I mean, we're here to prosecute every single case that comes across our desk.
Yeah, for FBI Albany, what we find more likely than not is sick individuals who are preying on our most innocent and vulnerable population. These folks hide behind phones and anonymity because this is not acceptable. This is not something you can discuss with your friends and family. This is despicable. So what we find here in FBI Albany is these are sick individuals who, when we have courageous and brave children come forward and tell us that they've been targeted by an adult for this explicit material, that's when law enforcement springs to action in very close time frame to get these predators off the street. And I'm very thankful our partners here at the United States Attorney's Office aggressively charged this case and is committed to bringing this predator to the Northern District of New York to get prosecuted.
I have one more question. Just talk about how important it is that this work be done. You know, obviously the student was very courageous, very brave to come forward to share her story, share their story. But oftentimes, a lot of victims don't. You know, we see these across the nation, you know, suicide because of the sextortion. You know, talk about how big of a problem that is and why you guys feel it is so important to go out to these schools and do this.
Well, it's very significant, which is why we cannot be in a reactive state. We cannot just wait for victims to call law enforcement, call FBI, call the United States Attorney's Office to report it. That's why we spend considerable amount of resources proactively getting into areas in which children are a part of, schools, right? If we had a better mechanism where all of these children reported these despicable acts by adults, we may not have to put those resources into schools, but what we have found is the population of children that are being targeted feel like it's their fault. And we're here to tell them and educate the communities, it's not your fault. We need you to talk to a trusted adult who then can talk to law enforcement so we can find these predators and seek accountability and justice so no additional victims are harmed.
We'll do one last question.
Corey, going back to minutes, could you talk about a little bit of the details? You said you got them within 8 hours. Could you talk about what that process was like? What took place from there?
Great question. So while we were there at the school presentation, just say that was an hour-ish. At that time, the student came forward and met with our FBI agents. At that point, once we realized a crime occurred and she was a victim, we put our Crimes Against Children and Human Trafficking Task Force to work with our victim, take statements, review the despicable communications of the predator charged in this case. We immediately contacted our FBI office in Los Angeles once we learned through emergency disclosures where this individual was based out of. This individual lied to our victim, used alias names. So this wasn't a, here's the correct communication, here's the correct profile for the individual for law enforcement to find. law enforcement had to utilize the tools and resources to find the true identity of this predator. Once we were able to, our team worked aggressively fast on this, from 8 hours from one side of the coast to the other side, to get a search warrant application to a judge in Riverside County, to execute that warrant, verify that the individual that was in custody, our predator, was in fact the individual who exploited our juvenile. So it took approximately 8 hours, but you also have, from coast to coast, anonymity involved, obfuscation that law enforcement had to wade through to get the true identity and the true predator. With that, I thank you all for coming today. This is significant. This is for the community to understand. These presentations do work. We need more parents, more adults talking to our children of what is right and what isn't right. And when somebody comes forward, a child comes forward, reassure them it's not their fault. This is the predator who manipulates our most vulnerable population. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for pushing this message out. And thank you to the communities in which we serve. We are committed to doing our part to eradicate, remove sexual predators who are hurting our children. So thank you.
Just wanted to add something here. On my way into the office, I was speaking with somebody, and they said, "Wow, how does this happen? Like 4 years ago, you would have isolated cases, but the proliferation of these crimes has catapulted with the invention of the internet, right? And these websites, these dating sites. So I can tell you right now, 100%, I'm having my staff look into how we could bring charges against that internet dating site. And in addition to the carrier of the phones, could it be AT&T, could it be Verizon, I don't care who it is. They have the capability of tracking anything like that. If Google could put algorithms in to monitor speech on the internet, monitor speech on websites, those big companies could do the same. So this has got to stop. We cannot have FBI agents going all over the schools and then hopefully randomly somebody comes forward and we catch somebody. This has got to really come to some kind of a head. And the only way to do that is to drag one of these big companies into federal court, let them fight it, and be humiliated publicly throughout that whole experience until they do something about it. If we could put a rocket to the moon and bring it back to Earth, we could certainly fix that as well for the safety of our children. So I want to thank everybody for being here, and grateful that you're going to get this out onto the public airwaves, because our schools and our educators, they should be teaching these kids. They should be holding these seminars in the high school. We don't need the FBI to spend their resources going into the schools. These schools should be doing it automatically. And I intend to meet with the heads of the Department of Education here in the state, and I'm going to bring this to their attention as well, that this should be mandated. This should be, they want to teach kids a few years ago things that I found were completely objectionable to teach children. Well, let's teach them how to beware of these types of predators and what is out there that could harm them. So,
Can you talk a little bit more what you just said? Do you
Sure.
think that you need legislation to kind of change the carrier-law enforcement relationship, or do you think you have the tools now to just bring these cases?
I don't know if we have the tools now, but I intend to find out. And I will have my staff, my team, looking into it, doing the research, because somebody has to do something, okay?
Are you saying that you want carriers to monitor all speech and all communication
No.
on their platforms?
No.
And then-
No, right? So, Facebook, right? Facebook, we're shutting down people's speech over the course of the last few years because they found it to be aggressive or hostile. Well, how did they figure that out? They have algorithms. Algorithms can monitor that. So if they put the algorithms in to say, where's that indictment? So if you're texting this guy Derek Johnson is texting on AT&T's airwaves, right? And text, let me find something I can say. Okay, we'll just say something lightly. Want to rub your thighs and blank on FaceTime. Want to finger yourself on FaceTime. Algorithms can pick that up, okay? They can program it. It may cost them billions of dollars to do, but I intend to force them to do it. If not me, maybe somebody else, but, you know, this is the Northern District. That's all I'm responsible for. But I'm going to do everything in my power to try to stop it. Yes?
If a predator is watching this, hearing this, reading this, what message do you have for them?
What message do I have? We're gonna get you. We're gonna find you, we will get you. And one way or the other, you can't escape it. So if you stopped even today, we're still going after you. So just beware and don't get going on this, because we are gonna find you. Anybody else?
Yeah, you know, are you thinking you're gonna take a civil action against carriers or platforms? Are you thinking?
Civil, yeah.
Okay.
Civil action, absolutely. I mean, they're not doing this intentionally, right? To create situations where predators can exploit and abuse children. I mean, that's not their intent, obviously. But civilly, there should be a way to bring them to their knees, because going in for these congressional hearings, they go in, all the lawyers are with them, they're being bombarded, they're humiliated, et cetera, but then what happens afterwards? Nothing. Okay? And then if they have to do legislation, that's even harder. How are they gonna pass legislation with all the billions of lobbyists? Take those billions and put the algorithms in, just to weed out this type of speech. It's not that hard.
But the speech you described
Yeah.
among adults, is there a violation of law if that speech were to go between two adults?
I don't know, we have to do the research, and could they develop a process where it would identify where it is the children? So in this case, you have the child saying, I'm 16. So this dialogue's going back and forth, so I have to have my kids program my phone, right? I was born in the 20th century, so that's my a level of technology. But I'm sure that there are geniuses out there that can figure out a way to capture whether it is between an adult and a child, period. It's gotta be.
Would the tool
On
like
the-
that possibly leave the door open for like huge abuses of not obviously of predators, but having a surveillance tool or a surveillance algorithm like that built in, basically monitoring all communication between people just as a start? Doesn't that raise any sort of concerns about people's rights at all?
It may, you know, it's a big question, but when you're walking into an airport and you got eyes in the sky watching everything you do, that's an invasion of privacy, isn't it?
If you're not in an airport, you're using a tool for
Yeah.
your house or someplace else.
You're using it to your house, so if you're not using that tool to victimize a child, nobody cares, just like on Facebook, okay? They're monitoring everything you do, everything. And so if you're not doing anything that's objectionable or beyond their standards, nobody's, you know, it's not like it's being captured and recorded, like, okay, what's your name? Patrick, okay, here, let's put all his communications over here. You know, it's a computer, right? So if the computer connects that there's a child being groomed by an adult, however way these geniuses can make that happen, that's what will be turned over to law enforcement. So then law enforcement does a little investigation, says, oh, you know what, they're both adults. And then nothing happens.
Did she identify herself as 16 on the app?
Yes.
And
I don't know about on the dating app, but, because I know,
That is, she identified herself as 15 turning 16.
15 turning 16, okay, so
The
there.
individual targeted our children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we know what app? Are you guys saying that, or?
we're not disclosing the app because it wasn't the app. She did not use
Right.
a fictitious, she said she was 15. That was just the manner and means in which the two connected. They moved off of the application pretty soon after they made the connection.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you all for
Thanks,
coming. It's
everybody.
lunchtime.
Holy cow.
I'm hungry. Thank you all.
Wait, hold on. Relax. We'll take more questions. Yes?
Can you disclose maybe what that conversation was like leading off the app? How that the predator, I guess, what did he say to him?
It's in the complaint.
It's in the complaint.
And if you'd like a copy of it, everyone, Michael Barnett will share it with you. Right, Michael?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Sir, do you believe that the schools need to do more? You were saying that the FBI is using their resources. What would you like to say to the school districts about educating
Well, the
students?
same way that New York State Board of Education wants to teach things in the public school that I personally find objectionable, they should be teaching this. This should be mandated. Educating children about sexting and predators and what to look out for and what not to get involved in. That should be mandatory. And as I said, Craig and I are going to go sit down with the Board of Regents and we're going to discuss this. And I want to see what their reaction is. Because if it's, we're not interested, then I'll publicly humiliate them as well.
Just one more for the FBI. Are you guys obviously going to continue doing these classes? Do you have others scheduled? What should students and parents expect? You guys will be in schools?
We have a great partnership with law enforcement as well as BOCES and majority of the schools. We work with the school to find time that we can either meet with parents of the children or students themselves. So again, this message is significant because our outreach efforts led to a victim coming forward and significant arrest of the predator. We put resources into it because we think it's important. Again, it goes back to the last question that was asked. We have folks who are in hiding, and we need our juveniles to come forward so we can find these folks that are hiding and targeting our most vulnerable population. We won't stop. We won't stop. We're going to be putting resources because we see the significant end result, which is juveniles coming forward, and we work with them. Our victim specialist works with them to show them it's not their fault. It's not anything they did. This was all at the hands of the predators. And again, our partners at the National Center for Missing Exploited Children with the Take It Down program, we're able to work with our victims to find where these pictures and videos are so they can work with those companies to remove that.
You know, as a private citizen before I came here, I would sit and watch the news and I would see a news story that would last about 15 seconds about something tragic like this, and then they would go on to talking about sports. But I would sit there and be stunned and say, this is terrible. Why can't anybody do anything about this? Well, I'm doing something about it. I'm here, I have a position to do it, I have the power to do it, and I'm going to do it. God willing. Thank you.
Thank you all. And happy birthday to our United States Attorney.
You couldn't have thought of a better message to send out on me? That's classified.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you all.
Thank you.